Nat Allison, welcome back to Australian Musician.
Thank you for having me.
I wanted to go way back to start with. What are your earliest musical memories?
Running around in my nappies. Is that okay to say that? Running around in my nappies, listening to music like We're Not Gonna Take It by Twisted Sister, and playing air guitar and throwing myself down on my knees and leaning back and rocking out. Those are probably my earliest memories.
So you knew what you were going to do right from the start.
I did. I don't think I realised at the time, but it's all I ever thought about from such a young age.
When you started buying albums with your own money, what kind of albums were you buying? I listened to a lot of stuff that my sister had in the house, my mum and Nana's music, my dad's. It wasn't until, a lot later, I'd buy all sorts of things, like Prince, Diamonds and Pearls, Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet, John Farnham, to Kylie Minogue. I can't remember the name of the album, but it had the Locomotion on it. So I had a really broad range. I always loved pop music, and I loved rock music because of the guitar and all that sort of thing. So, yeah. Was anybody else in the house a musician?
No. My father was quite a good singer. He could. He's Croatian, so he kind of never had the opportunity to do anything with it, kind of from where he came from. And I think that's why he wanted to try and give me all the opportunity he could when I decided to pursue music.
Yeah. I think I remember from one of our other interviews, your first guitar was a Strat copy?
Yes. It was a Torch Vintage Series, white. It was a white one. I ended up getting an identical one in this bright fluoro yellow colour as well. I haven't seen one for years, so I don't know if people still have them lying around, but that was my first guitar.
Once you started getting into guitar, who were the guitar heroes, the guys that you really were getting into?
Very early on, I used to love watching Brett Garsett live on stage with John Farnham. I always thought he was a really interesting person to watch play, because at the time when I was that age, a lot of John Farnham's concerts were televised on the TV because he was a huge star. And then later, Jack Jones started to play in his band as well, so I used to enjoy watching him. And pretty much anyone that came on the television, whether it was a video clip or a live show, I was interested in. I just wanted to soak it all in.
Your first band?
My first band was made out of players from my high school, and we called ourselves Renaissance. I think we picked it out of the dictionary. Pretty lame name, but that was my first band.
The first band where you were getting paid to play?
Hip Shot was that first band. I was 13 years of age, fronting a band of musicians that were all in their mid-30s, and our first residency was at the Edinburgh Castle in Brunswick, actually, on a Friday night.
What were your goals at that stage?
I think at that stage it was just playing as many gigs as possible and playing live. I was excited by that.
The Suzi Quatro gig, how did that initially come about? that one came about. I've done a lot of writing and recording with Mike Chapman, who wrote her songs like Devil Gate Drive, 48 Crash, Can to Can. He and I have written and recorded quite a few songs over the years, and in 2010 he was going to make another record called In the Spotlight with Susie. He called me up and said, I'd love you to come over to London and play guitar on the album, because we've worked together for years and he knew he could get what he needed for that record, guitar wise. And so I said, oh, I'll think long and hard about it, and not really. I just I immediately agreed and said I'd love to come over, and that's how I met Susie at those sessions. We remained friends and kept in contact over email, and she emailed me one day and said, can you put a band together for me with Australian musicians, because I'm coming out to do a festival run, and it wasn't feasible for her to put up the guys from England for the 5 days off in between each lot of shows. And yeah, she's been using us ever since for any of her tours down here, which has been fun.
Yeah. Well, what are some of the most memorable gigs with Susie?
Let me think. Every time we play the Enmore Theatre, there's just such a vibe. It's the same with the Palais Theatre in Melbourne. Both of those venues, just, I don't know, there's just this electricity to them. And then for Red Hot Summer Tour, they're some of the favourites, probably the Mornington Racecourse, Sandstone Point in Queensland. But yeah, everyone's kind of a bit memorable.
In 2009, they recorded a song, Anyone for Tennis, which Channel 7 used in their telecast. How did that all come about?
Ralph Carr, I used to be signed to his record label called Standard Records, and I wrote that song with Mike Chapman actually quite a few years before 2009, and when I was signed to Ralph's label. And he and his publishing kind of head guy just happened to be talking to the Channel 7 guys about needing a song for their ad campaign for the up and coming 2010 Australian Open, and they said, oh, we've got the song for you, and they played it to them, and yeah, decided to use it, which was really cool.
2016 you released This One's For You, a solo EP. Tell me about that experience, because 2016 I guess CDs were still being sold a little bit at that point.
Yeah, that was a fantastic experience. I went in to record at Woody Anderson's studio in Collingwood. I think it was over about a 2-week period. I had Johnny Salerno come in and lay down the drums. I played all the bass and guitar parts and the singing, of course. And Woody then also mixed the stuff as well. And yeah, it's really fun to finally put out a full record of my stuff after years of writing music, but never had the opportunity to release anything.
Yeah. 2021, during COVID, you released the single We Are the Heroes. How did you find the COVID period?
Oh, it was an awful experience, I must say. You would think with all that time up your sleeve, you would be more inclined to write even more songs during that period. But I think just having such high level stress going on in your mind and body, wondering what's the music industry going to be like when we finally open up? Am I going to be able to work again? Because I've always been a full-time musician. I don't know how to do anything else. So yeah, it was just a highly stressful kind of period, to be honest.
Yeah. You're currently in the studio again. Tell me about what's going on there.
So I'm in the middle of recording 5 songs. We've ticked off
2 in completion out of the 5. There's just a few more little bits and pieces to do on the other 3 tracks, and kind of heading a little bit more of a country pop rock vibe with this set of songs, which is exciting to do something a little bit different.
Okay, now we get to talk guitars. This is your White Falcon. What's the story behind how you acquired it?
This one I actually bought at a music shop called Umanoff Guitars on Bleecker Street in New York City. I was actually on the hunt for a silver falcon, which is a black with the silver binding, and they had one of those in the shop. I played it, then he said, why don't you give this White Falcon a try? And I was kind of like, no, I didn't want a white one. And then I played it, and for some reason, even though the guitars are very much identical, it just felt right. And so I chose this one in the end, and it's got a nice lacquer finish which kind of gives it that vintage looking white tone.
Is it a fairly versatile guitar for you in regard to tone?
Yeah, definitely. It can really rock, so you can crank up the crunch sound, but at the same time you can clean it up and play more kind of finger picky type stuff on it as well. Very versatile. It's a little bit harder to play solos on, but other than that, it's pretty versatile. This one's my Gibson Firebird. It's a 50th anniversary. This time I wasn't on the hunt for a guitar, but I was in LA at the time, and I've always just got to go into the guitar shop there in Hollywood, and I was in the premium section of the shop, and I saw this guitar hanging up, and I thought, oh, that looks really cool. So of course I plugged it in and played it, and again it felt right. It had that sound that I really loved. I love the feel of the neck and how high you can kind of go up with this neck, and I just had to buy it. This is a 2006 Gibson J200 that I bought new back then at a Gallon's guitar shop in Paran. I'd always wanted one of these, and I went into the shop, and because it had this little ding on it, they had to sell it for half of the regular price. So that was a deal I couldn't pass up, knowing I'd always wanted one. And I basically said to them, I do so many gigs a year, it's going to get way more banged up than that, so I'll take it.
You've played numerous types of shows. You've done the Melbourne Guitar Show for us a couple of times. Recently you played the Blues Guitar Roadshow with a bunch of guitarists. How was that experience?
Oh, it was fantastic. Because I knew some of the guitarists that were playing, and then there were others that I had never met before. I was particularly excited to meet Kathleen Holleran. We've just never crossed paths at the same gigs. I got to see and play with Shannon Bourne. That was a thrilling experience. I loved his playing, and just a great community of people all up on stage together.
Another thing you're doing is a show called Rock Chick, celebrating women in rock. Where did that concept initially come from?
Actually, my friend Tim Henwood, who I play with in Susie's band, he was talking to me about it for quite some time before we finally said, oh, let's give that a go. So he kind of came up with the idea, because I suppose over the years people have always labelled me rock chick, whether I like it or not, the term. So yeah, we came up with that idea together, did a photo shoot, put the band together, and started doing, I think we've done about 10 shows so far, and they've been really fun. I've actually really enjoyed the concept.
Yeah, I think the next one coming up on August 31 at the Burvale.
Yes,
You played there before?
I've only ever done solo gigs there, so it'll be fun to do a band show.
Yeah. I think you play more solo shows in Melbourne than any other musician I know.
Yeah.
I was looking at your website and the list is quite long. What do you like most about those mainly acoustic shows?
Yeah, they're my bread and butter. I get a lot of those. Being full time, you kind of just have to keep working. And what I love about them is that I am working. I'm using it's like it's practice for my hands and my voice. It's practice interacting with the crowd and confidence building and talking with the crowd in your breaks, all that kind of stuff. That's so important. And then when I go and do the bigger shows, I'm always sort of ready to go, which is what I really like about those smaller ones.
Yeah. You still have to play with TV screens broadcasting football.
Unfortunately, yeah. There's plenty of things I don't like about them, but there's a lot of positives.
So what's on for the rest of 2024 into 2025?
I've actually got 3 shows coming up in Germany, which I'm really excited about. One in particular is a festival called Cine Rock. It's been going since before COVID, and they've managed to build it up more and more every year, so super excited about that.
What are you most proud of in your career?
Probably, I'd have to say, well, this one of my songs being used for the tennis a couple of times as a proud moment. Definitely working with Suzi Quatro, and just knowing that I've been able to support myself through music alone since I was a teenager when I left school is probably really what I'm proudest of the most, and that I can continue to do that.
Well, Nat Allison, thanks for chatting to us.
Thank you for having me again. It's been so lovely.